There's a pretty good chance you're using an ancient invention right now, and you don't even know it. Today, we're going to talk about the Phoenicians, an ancient civilization whose legacy is hiding in plain sight, in everything from the colors we prize to the very letters we use to write. Okay, I know it sounds like a riddle, right? But the answer connects all three of these things back to one incredible group of people, the Phoenicians. And believe it or not, their whole story is about turning a huge geographical problem into their biggest advantage. And it all started on a little strip of land by the sea. So, who exactly were the Phoenicians? Well, they were an ancient Semitic-speaking people who popped up in the eastern Mediterranean. See, these guys never built a massive land empire like, say, the Egyptians or the Romans. Nope. Their influence spread in a totally different way, but trust me, it was just as powerful. So, picture this. Their homeland was this tiny, narrow strip of coast, mostly what we now call Lebanon, but it also touched parts of Syria and Galilee. And being squeezed right up against the Mediterranean, that wasn't just a detail on a map, it was going to define their entire future. So, to get our bearings on the timeline, their culture really starts to take off around 1100 BC. They hit their absolute peak as this powerful trading community that basically ran the Mediterranean for centuries, before their influence started to fade around 200 BC. I mean, that's a huge stretch of time where they were a major, major force in the ancient world. But yeah, their rise to power was anything but easy. In fact, their whole story starts with this massive problem, one that was literally baked into the land they lived on. If we look at that map again, you can see they were perched right at the western end of the famous Fertile Crescent. And while that might sound pretty good, they were actually in a really tight spot. Just think about it for a second. To the east, you've got these massive, impassable mountains. All around them were larger and often hostile neighbors who completely blocked their ability to trade over land. The only open path for them was to the west, the huge, unpredictable Mediterranean Sea. I mean, they were totally, completely boxed in. So this was the turning point. They had two choices: fade away or embrace the only path left. They had to look to the sea. It wasn't just a good idea, it was survival. And you know what they say about necessity, right? It's the mother of invention. And boy, did they innovate. They didn't just look to the sea, they mastered it. They built this incredible commercial empire, not on land, but on water. And this is the result. Just look at this map. It's incredible. Starting from that tiny little piece of coastline, they built a trading network that stretched across the entire Mediterranean. This is like the perfect picture of turning your biggest weakness into your greatest strength. So how'd they pull it off? Well, for starters, they became absolute masters of sailing and shipbuilding. They built one of the best harbors in the entire world in their city of Tyre. Their super fast trading ships sailed everywhere: Egypt, Greece, Spain, Italy, you name it. And they didn't just visit. They set up powerful new colonies and even dared to sail past the Strait of Gibraltar out into the wild Atlantic Ocean. I mean, can you imagine? And the absolute jewel in their colonial crown was Carthage. They founded it on the coast of North Africa, and it grew into one of the most powerful, wealthiest cities in the entire Mediterranean. It was a true monument to Phoenician ambition. So all this sailing, all this trading, it wasn't just for the fun of it, It had a very clear goal: to get rich. And they got incredibly wealthy by connecting the ancient world and trading some really unique, valuable stuff. Oh yeah, and the stuff they were selling, everybody wanted it. They had valuable cedar timber from their forests, which was perfect for building. They were master craftsmen, making beautiful silverworks and ivory carvings. They were also pioneers in glassblowing, turning simple sand into these beautiful, valuable artifacts. But there was one product that stood above all the others: Tyrian purple. Yeah, this was this insanely vibrant, super rare purple dye that they figured out how to get from sea snails. It was so hard to make that it was astronomically expensive. Only royalty and the mega-rich could afford clothes dyed this color. It became their signature product, so famous, in fact, that the name Phoenicia itself probably comes from the Greek word for purple. That's how tied to this color they were. Okay, so their trading empire was amazing. That purple dye, incredible. But their true legacy, the thing they're most remembered for, it wasn't something they could pack up and sell. It was an idea, an invention that would literally change the world forever. It's pretty wild to think about, but their biggest contribution to human history wasn't for sale. It was something they developed just for themselves, out of a simple, practical need to manage their huge, sprawling trade network. What did they create? One of the world's very first alphabets. See, instead of all those complicated picture-based writing systems that other cultures had, they came up with a simple set of symbols where each one stood for a sound. And why? Well, think about it. If you're a trader zipping from port to port, you need a quick, easy way to write up contracts, keep track of your cargo, and send messages. Honestly, this was a total game changer. All of a sudden, writing wasn't just for priests and scribes anymore. It was accessible. This meant information and knowledge could spread way faster and farther than ever before. And it's all thanks to some busy merchants who needed to stay organized. And this is the real kicker. This is where it all connects back to you and me. The Greeks took the Phoenician alphabet and adapted it. Then the Romans took the Greek alphabet and adapted that. And the Latin alphabet the Romans used, that's the direct ancestor of the English alphabet we're all using right now. Yep, the very letters on your screen trace their family tree right back to those ancient sailors. So when you think about it, the Phoenicians went from being trapped by mountains to mastering the seas, from trading in purple dye to giving us the very building blocks of writing. It just goes to show you, sometimes the biggest innovations come from the biggest problems. So next time you're texting a friend or writing an email, maybe you'll take a second to think of those ancient sea traders who kind of started it all.